Welcome guys to another video on the Hungry Coder channel, and today we're going to be looking at Python, and in particular we're going to be looking at taking input. I'm going to assume that you already have Python installed and you already have a way of writing your code using Visual Studio Code, Atom, PyCharm, etc., whichever you choose. So now let's get into it. So taking input is a way of interacting with users. Or getting data to provide some sort of result. Now, Python provides two built-in methods to read the data, and these methods are, let's take a look. If we move over to Visual Studio Code, let's call this inputs.py for now, so I'll create a new file in the folder. So yeah, I'm going to do a hashtag to start a comment, as we're not going to use these ones, but we have two, as I mentioned, which would be input, parentheses, and the second one would be, that you may come across, would be raw input, parentheses. Key difference between the two. And they both do the same thing, pretty much. So input you would see on Python 3, and you will see raw input on Python 2. It's important to know, because if you're working on an older program or an older script that was maybe written with Python 2, you can see if you find a raw input, you can kind of interpret that yourself as input. But yeah, okay, so input, the one that we're talking about, is again Python 3. It might be worth checking that you have Python 3 installed. You can see in the bottom left here on Visual Studio Code that I'm running Python 3.9.1. But if you don't have that, let's open up a terminal, which could be your command prompt on your machine, PowerShell, anything you need really. So let's type in Python -- version to check which version you're on. So we're currently running Python 3.9.1. Which means, yeah, we can use input. It's good to know, because if you go into a new job or a new office and they give you a machine to work on and they say Python's already installed, you just want to check which version it's running, because yeah, you need to see what you're working with basically. Anyway, so the input function is used on all the latest versions of Python. It takes the input from the user and then evaluates the expression. The Python interpreter automatically identifies whether a user input a string, number, or list, but let's understand by having a look at some examples. So there may be a time in the program where you may want to get a user's name to maybe personalize the rest of their experience a bit. So the first thing we'll do is create a variable to store the name, call it name, and we're going to equals input, parentheses, and we're going to want to tell the user what data we actually want from them. So open quotes, enter your name, colon, and make sure to leave a space at the end, because one won't be generated for you. Now we want to tell Python to give us an output to tell us what that name is, and it's good practice to use print methods all over your script whenever you're writing new lines, just to see what you're getting back from Python. So let's print the variable name, Control S to save, and let's run it just to make sure that that first line of code is working and we're on the right path. So what we can do is, back in our terminal or command prompt, is Python, and we're going to want to make sure that you're in the right folder as well. And we're going to want to run inputs.py, because that's what we've called this script. So inputs.py. So immediately we've been asked to enter our name, so let's do that, J. And it prints J back to us. Now, I mentioned something about input being able to identify what you've input in terms of data type, whether it's an integer, string, float, list. Let's print the type. So we do type, parentheses, and inside we are going to want to have a look at the type of name. Let's run this and we have a look at what it does for us. So J. So we've got a new output. We've got J again, because we still have the print statement here. and we have a class string because we printed the type here. Now, what if we run the program and we didn't put J or a name, we put this number here? So we get the number back, but it's still a string. So we're going to look at a way to kind of overcome this, because when you use input, it automatically converts to a string, no matter what the input is. So let's get rid of those. Okay, so let's dig into more of an example where we can tell Python what data type we need, and kind of build on our script as well. So we may also want the age of a user for various reasons. So the first thing we were going to want to do is say int brackets, and this is going to say that we need this input to be converted to an integer. So in here, if you can guess what we're going to do is we're going to put input, because we still want to get an input, but we just want to wrap it around with an integer and parentheses just to make sure that it's going to be an integer for us, because you have to think, if later on in the program you may want to get an average age of everyone that's using maybe your program or app or something like that, then if your numbers are all strings, that may cause problems. So we want to say whatever we get here is going to be an integer, and it needs to match an integer. So anyway, open quotes, and we want to say enter your age, colon, space. Great. Float, so score. Yeah, so let's get another variable ready. It's called score, and that's going to hold a float, parentheses, and a float, as you may know, is a number with a decimal point. So again, we're going to put input, and here, if you can guess, we are going to ask for their score. Enter your score. Great. Now let's run it and see where we're at. So Control S to save. Let's run the script. So my name is Jay, and my age is 20, let's say. It's not, but anyway, 81.5 for my score. Great, so we didn't get any errors, which is great. Of course, we didn't get an input. I'm sure you can understand why. It's because we have no print statements or any statements that give an output to the console, which is great, but let's do that. So we may want to print. We open quotes, your name is, colon, and we can put the name variable there after a comma. There is multiple ways of concatenating your kind of text in Python. This is just the way I like to do it, but there is multiple ways. So you can do print. We also going to want to do, if you have an idea of what you need to do, I'd say pause the video, give it your best shot, and let's see where you're at. So your age is, and I'm going to do age. And finally, we have a score, don't we? So open quotes, your score is, comma, and the score variable. So Control S, I've saved my script, and let's run it. So enter your name, J. Enter your age, 81. Enter your score, 81.5. And we have an output, which is here. So print up here, your name is variable name, which we've got from the input. Your age is 81, which is here, and then finally we have the score, which is done for us here. And we got these pieces of data by using input, and that's why input is useful in Python. So a few things to basically remember is the flow of the program will stop until the user enters the input. So let's just have a look. So let's run the script. Now when we run the program, it stops here because there's an input function, and it's just not going to go forward until something is put there. So once you enter your name, it goes through the order of execution, and then we end up here and it stops again, then it ends up here, stops again, and then of course it just prints. So it's good to know. Okay, so it automatically, so it's good to remember that it automatically converts data into a string. So if you was asking for an age, as we did here, and we didn't tell it to, we didn't declare an integer for this line, then age would be, your ages would be stored as strings, so that you couldn't really do any mathematical kind of functions with them or down the line. So it's good to declare what we need the input to be for us to be able to work with it properly. Now I did mention, of course, raw input as well quickly. So if we wanted to convert our name variable to ask for raw input, let's control save and run that. Oh, let's just get rid of this. Okay, so let's run that. Name error, raw input is not defined. So yeah, it doesn't work on Python 3, but it does work on Python 2. But I've actually never used it, but there you go. Well, I've seen it when I've had to convert an old Python 2 script to Python 3. But yeah, and that was one of the tasks I had to do during that kind of conversion. But yeah, I hope you find that useful. My recommendation would be to kind of, if you've got this on your terminal or your Visual Studio Code or Atom, etc., delete it, write it out again, maybe even build in it, and maybe make some long sentences and make a program that can kind of automate a few things. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. More videos to come. Do like the video so I know that you guys are benefiting from it, and of course do subscribe so that you get my new videos free and straight away. And yeah, I'm going to be building some programs with you guys soon. See you on the next video.